Welcome to the K-State Insiders, your Kansas State sports show. Now, let's head into the studio.
Hey guys, welcome in here to the K-State Insiders. As always, I'm Ryan Gilbert, joined by Fitz, Big B. No Cole today. He's off being a good son. So Jay Heidrick, our good friend, former player from the late 90s, hops on with us. Jay, we've been texting back and forth throughout the season, and it's not been the most pleasant basketball year, to say the least.
Both struggle times, but also a lot of good things too. It hasn't all been bad, but it hasn't been consistent, which I think is the most frustrating thing. If there were times, if this was a team that we didn't think could have potential to be good, I think that it'd be a little different story. But they've shown signs of being capable of being pretty good, and I think that's the most frustrating piece of it.
Fitz, you're big on your employees. You trust your guys to go do their things, and you let me and John go cover basketball games in Stillwater. Are you just using this as a cop-out, Fitz, that you don't have to go to hoops games? I'm on to you.
I have no comment on that. Speculation. There's no actual evidence of that happening. I do feel an illness coming on. Hope I can go tomorrow. Hey, look, yeah, thank you for taking the bullet on that one. It wasn't so much the team as the tip-off time that was a problem. Holy cow. But do we know why that tip-off time was so late?
It's got to be TV.
Just TV? Okay. Look, I agree with Jay. I think it's frustrating. There's a couple things compounding here. It's frustrating that this has happened for a third straight season. It's frustrating because you can look and see the added talent here. I mean, PJ Haggerty is really good. We've got shooters. They just haven't taught them some things that they need to do to compete at this level, which is their job. So I think the frustration with this team is it's so visibly talented and yet incomplete, both in construction and coaching.
Big B, that might have been outside of Taj's pass. K-State was able to get the ball past half court, call a timeout. The execution there was good in the late game moments. Other than that, though, it was just abysmal, to say the least.
Yeah, we've all been watching basketball for a long time. 2 seconds is plenty of time to run a play, get a couple of dribbles, at least one, get something going towards the basket, and to have to settle for what, a 35-footer with no dribble. I'm like, that. First of all, I just refuse to believe that was the play that was drawn up. I just refuse to believe that, because if that's the case, we got bigger problems. I can tell you that right now. So I just think maybe somebody panicked. That was what happened. And, kids panicking, it is what it is. But I just got to be better in late game situations, man. And especially when you're struggling, you got to be able to latch on to something. And right now we're just having a hard time being able to latch on to something.
Yeah, Jay, it was what makes it so frustrating really is in year number one, and also it carried into year number two under Jerome Tang. That was where this team hung its hat, was 5 to grind, winning late, coming out on top, and it was countless overtime wins to start out this Jerome Tang journey. And now it seems like this team just can't get a victory late when it needs it.
Yeah, you look at that last play, and Brian, I agree that it was poor. It's poor all around, poor executed. We don't know what the design was. And what we heard in the post game was we thought that Oklahoma State may foul. And, it's like, I was talking to my brother about this, and he goes, can you imagine what everyone was saying? It's like, Coach, they're not doing what we thought they would do. They're not following our plan, Coach. What do we do here? And, you got to understand that there's 2.8 seconds left. Oklahoma State wasn't going to foul, particularly in the front court. And they knew that a shot was going to be going up pretty quick. And so you gotta get something going to the hoop on that. And that has to be your main goal, is getting a quality shot off. And if they foul, they foul. And with the continuation rule, that's changing college basketball this year, you're probably going to get a shooting call, just like Oklahoma State did the possession before. And so, yeah, it was poor execution in late game. And And it's but it just still comes down to defensively. Getting a stop when you need to get a stop, getting a rebound when you need to get a rebound. And I know they probably didn't get the call on the jump ball, and they probably should have gotten it. But you still got to get a rebound. You still got to make a play. You still got to finish a play. And I say it all the time on the radio here in Kansas City is you're not going to beat teams by giving up on average 80 points a game. You're not going to outscore teams in this league. It's just not going to happen. And so if you want to have a chance in this league, you got to defend. You got to rebound. And defense and rebounding travels anywhere and everywhere. Shooting, offense, sometimes those things don't. But if you can defend and you can rebound, you'll be in every game.
I think we can all agree Andre Kostic might be the worst defender on this team. He doesn't play, though. You think it's Abdi Bashir. Abdi Bashir is near the bottom, maybe second place, maybe first place in this category. To have him on the court, guys, you needed one stop. One stop wins you the game, and you have, I guess, like Jay says, your worst defender on the team on the court. And if he doesn't commit that foul, maybe we're not having this conversation.
No, we're not.
But guys, if he's not on the court, he doesn't commit the foul.
That's exactly right. There's no argument to be made for why he's on the court after the ball went out of bounds with 4 seconds left. That's when I can see it, your head, and you're probably going to get the ball back. If it's all one fluid, I can buy that. But once that clock stopped, to leave him on the court is malpractice. Just plain and simple. You got to get him off the court. I don't know who the 5 were on the court, but I can come up with 5 that were eligible that hadn't fouled out that should have been on the court. And Abdi's name's not in there. After they make the free throws, if that had been the case and it hadn't been his fault, you got to put him back in then because he needs to be on the court for that. Because if you're going to take a long shot, it's naturally Abdi Bashir, right? That's why he's on the court. But he didn't get that ball either. I can't make heads or tails at the end of the game. It's just like he just rolled the ball out there and said, let's hope we win. And they didn't.
Seems like there was a lot of overthinking, right? Abdi Bashir maybe tried to use him as a decoy. He was on the baseline and obviously thinking Oklahoma State was going to foul. Sometimes you just got to go play checkers, man. Basketball is a game it's a copycat game at times, but sometimes guys got to go out and make plays. And when you're thinking too much about what the other team may or may not do, you get in your own head and you lose the game.
Yeah, and I'm with Jay. Run the play that you're going to run, and if they're going to foul, they're going to foul. But I have found it hard to believe that teams are fouling with 2 seconds left. I don't think anybody's going to do that, man. That's not enough time to foul and not get a play. Jay again is correct with the continuation rule. They're basically giving you a second. So now we're talking about another second to get it just didn't make sense. And my thing is, again, obviously we can look at the stats, but you're going to lose when you're on the road and you shoot 5 free throws. I mean, that's going to happen. And I know they made 15 threes, and I know that's part of what we're doing. But if you can only get to the line 5 times, and I don't think it was egregious officiating either. It wasn't, they're not calling any foul. No, Kansas State settled for a bunch of jump shots, and here's the thing. 44% from 3 or something? That should be enough to win. But again, if you're only going to get there 5 times and then you turn it over 16 times, that's kind of a recipe to lose, and that's what happened. But I just, until you find a way to keep just 75 points, just get somebody to 75 points where you can score. When you're scoring the basketball, you can win some of these games, but it's troubling, man, right now. It really is.
Free throws were bad, but when a team has such a small margin for error like Big B does, like K-State does, Big B, you lose the turnover battle. And Kamari McGriff, your starting 5 fouls out. Like you have to, if you're going to have one deficiency, that's all it can be, because those 3-pointers, if those 3-pointers don't go in, K-State doesn't hit, 44% from beyond the arc, you're losing this one easily by double digits.
Yeah.
One McGriff too. That they asked a lot in post game about his per 40 fouls compared to Wilmington. Some of them are his fault, but our inability to control the dribble and to keep guards out of the paint forces our posts, who are not shot blockers other than Buka, to rotate and get out of position. And then we are in constant chase situations all the time on defense because we can't control dribblers. And so McGriff, I feel for him because he is constantly put in positions where he's having to rotate to help and be in a spot where he's going to pick up fouls. And what's frustrating about it is if you go back and watch tape on this, it's not like we got Allen Iverson out there and they're dropping a bag full of moves and breaking ankles. They're literally just driving straight to the basket. That's it. With their right hand. And when you allow teams to do that, your bigs are going to get into foul trouble. It's not complicated.
Yeah, no, it was a bunch of straight line drives. Guys okay, I'm going to drive the basketball. Oh, nobody's going to stop me. So I'm just going to drive all the way to the basket and lay it in or drop it to somebody if somebody happens to come and help. And I don't know. I mean, look, I get playing zone. You're going to give up a bunch of wide open 3-point shots, but they're giving those up anyway because of just what you said, Jay. Straight line drives. If somebody comes to help, somebody's getting a wide open shot. So I don't know. I mean, if you can't keep somebody in front of you, you have to do something different at some point.
Some of them still gave up the straight line drives.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They did. It just, I just don't know what it is at this point. It just, something has to give.
Yeah, we've got, we're blessed. We've got 2 former D1 basketball players on here, and then there's me and Fitz. But if you want to ask the Smarties a question, comments are wide open. We'd love to hear from you. But just in terms of that fouling, we talked about this on the Clint Stewart show from Sunday. Why, we had some questions from the site. Why is Kansas State, why is fouling such an issue? Well, when your defense is bad, you're out of position, and that can just lead you to fouling. It's all intertwined under the same umbrella, guys.
Yeah, they put themselves in bad positions defensively by not moving their feet, not getting their, hips and shoulders in front of someone. And they just have no foundation of even defensive stances sometimes. It's amazing to watch. But when you are giving up that straight line dribble like that, it's just, what do? You reach. You're supposed to stop them. That's your job. You're in defense. So you start reaching and you foul. I didn't even realize the foul discrepancy was that bad in the game because I didn't feel like the fouls being called weren't fouls. I didn't feel like Oklahoma State was fouling as much. That is possible, folks, that you just suck at defense and the other team doesn't, and one leads to fouling and the other one doesn't. Not that Oklahoma State's great at defense, but it seems like there's some more foundation there. It is maddening to watch. I can't imagine being a former D1 basketball player and watching this lack of fundamentals in so many areas. It's driven me crazy the last few years because it was dribbling and passing, and now it's defense. He's assembled a team that doesn't know how to play defense, and that seems almost impossible, but here we are.
Jay, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
It's frustrating for me, Fitz, and you touched on it, is just the fundamental aspect of it. I talk to my 14-year-old son's team and tell them all the time, in defense, you got to be where you need to be before you need to be there. And that doesn't apply just when you're on the ball. And so if you're off the ball and you're supposed to be midline and you're in help defense and you're 3 feet off the other side, you're 3 feet out of place. At this level of basketball, then it means you're going to be 3 feet short on your rotation. That is the difference between an and one and taking a charge. And so it's just fundamentally being in the right spot, even when you're not guarding the ball. But then you get back to things like, how many charges have we taken this year? How many times have we, and I think I texted both you and Ryan about this, how many times have we had a dribbler catch the ball 75 feet or more from the basket and dribble all the way to the rim and nobody steps in front of them? Those are the things that are most frustrating. And I know that it sounds like we're being negative here, and we are a lot. And it's not all negative. There are positive things for sure. But those are the little things that are frustrating, where it just comes down to toughness and effort. And that's, I think, what frustrates everybody the most, is that, step in front of somebody, be where you need to be, have a hard rotation, just play hard on both ends. And that's where it starts, and that's where it ends.
I was going to ask you, Jay, about Coach Driscoll coming in the offseason. It was all offense. That was the focus. In hindsight, like, should we have been surprised that the defense is so far behind, just because all the talk, all the attention was on the other side of the court?
Yeah, I mean, I am surprised that the defense is so far behind. But you've heard Coach Tang talk about it too. After the UCF game, he talked in his post game about how our guys have a false confidence that their abilities on the offensive end are going to be able to make up for the things they're lacking on the defensive end. And so I don't know if the pendulum swung too far or what, but the issue has always been, we lack an identity. And it's, what is the identity of this program? When you play Kansas State basketball, you better be ready for what? What is that? And we've cleaned up a lot of things on offense, and we're scoring the ball, and we have guys that can score the ball. And there's a lot of times that's really fun to watch. But at the end of the day, it is still two sides of the court you got to play. And they are scoring the ball. They're scoring more points. I'm not sure that they're more efficient with it. We want to shoot 43s a game, those types of things. I've never been a Division I basketball coach, but to me, I think we want to focus on making 15, because I can go out and shoot 40 shots. I mean and you're not going to get a whole lot of production out of that. But if we can get out and focus on getting good shots and making 15, regardless of how many we shoot, I think that's a better way to go about it. And you still got to attack the rim. I know I'm old school and everything, but you got to play inside out. You got to look for a mid-range game, and the people who do analytics will disagree with me on that. But it can't just be all 3-pointers and see what happens.
Agree. It seems to me like when they put the ball on the floor and go to the basket, they're not going to do anything other than shoot it or dump it or turn it over. They're not going to pass it back out as the defense collapses. I'm not seeing that. I don't know why we're surprised the defense stinks. The coach that actually coached defense is now at the University of Texas. He was not let go necessarily, but he was instructed to job hunt, so he got the hell out of Dodge. He was who was coaching the defense. And the next question is, what are some of these guys coaching? I mean, we know Driscoll's in charge of the offense. The offense is notably better. I don't understand what coaching is being done at times. And the fact that this team continues to just show horrible fundamentals, you're not going to make that up during the course of a season. If that's baked into your cake's going to taste like crap. And this does. But again, I keep coming back to this, and I would love to have Jay and Big B's opinion on this. Is this team regressing from where it started early in the year? Or is it just the opponents are exposing it? Because I feel like this team is much worse now than it was at the start of the year before they knew much.
I think two things can be true, Fitz. I think it's regressing and the level of competition. And it kind of depends on who they're playing, because, you start looking at some of the teams that they played, like a Nebraska. Nebraska's still undefeated, and in the top 10, and they played them to what, a point?
Yeah.
And had an opportunity. And then you look at, they lose to Arizona State a week before we played Arizona State. Bobby Hurley was basically begging to be fired. I mean, he's asking out of his job, and now they've put up a little bit of a fight here lately. But I think part of that was the game against Kansas State kind of turned it around. Like, okay, well, maybe we can win a few games. We might as well go win them. So I think both things are true. It's just they're not getting better. And I think that maybe is the thing, is that they're not getting better. As a lot of teams get better, we're starting to see this Kansas State team, well, okay, they can't do this, or they're not getting better at the thing that we know that they need to. Defensively, it seems like it's getting worse. And we're going to start, I mean, we played the top of the league, but hell, in the Big 12, the top of the league goes 6 deep. So it just keeps on going. And I don't know. I think you're right on both accounts, Fitz. It's a wild answer, but I think two things can be true.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a little bit of both, but I will say that there have been improvements. As bad as the defense is, there have been some improvements. I think that they're guarding the pick and roll better, and they've made some changes there. They're not switching as much as they were at the beginning of the year, and I don't mind switching. Again, I'm an old school guy. I think that fighting through screens creates an identity, a toughness for you. But when you're switching everything, including cutters, I think that causes a lot of problems, or potential for a lot of problems. So they have tried to make some changes that I think have been beneficial, that they deserve credit for. But at the end of the day, we're not playing Mississippi Valley State anymore. We're not playing Bowling Green anymore. Everybody we play is, even the bad teams in the Big 12 are pretty good. And so what's frustrating is the same thing last year was we weren't left out of the tournament last year because we didn't beat people. We had some really, really good wins last year. We got left out of the tournament because we didn't beat the people we should have beat. And so that is what's really frustrating is you have a 3-game stretch with BYU, or 2-game stretch with BYU and Arizona, right? And they just slaughter you. Well, okay. Well, now you got Arizona State, and you have an opportunity to get what would be I'm assuming would be a quad 1 win, top 75 road win. Maybe not, but it's going to be borderline. And you have those opportunities coming up, and then UCF coming home, which would have looks like would have been a really good win as well. And you just don't do it. I think that they're regressing, not in the fundamental sense, but in the mental toughness sense, for sure. Being able to say, we need this, we got to go get it. And there's some fight there for sure. But when you're playing, UCF, and you're getting layups at the rim, and you're just trading baskets back and forth, you got to get a stop, man. You got to get a stop, a bucket, and a stop, and you got to be able to string some of those 3 trifecta possessions together. And we just couldn't get stops, and we're just trying to fight back from too much down. And so I think that's the thing, is they're regressing on their ability in game to just go get a stop, get a fight, and just lock down.
How much or how little K-State's regressed? I mean, guys, we could literally go hours talking about this, but from year to year, question earlier from Awake, last year's team was 1-6, won the first game in Big 12 play. We lose Big B. He doesn't want to talk about last year's team. He's gone. Kansas State right now is 0-5. He's back. And Jerome Tang, whether you want to agree with him or not, mentioned it in Stillwater that Kansas State just kind of ran out of time last year. This team still has 2 months ahead of itself. So to say that this team can't turn it around, I would push back on that, because last year's team, you can make a damn good argument, was a lot worse than this year's team. Was 1-6, rattled off 6 straight, like Jay said, against some damn good teams, Iowa State, KU, Arizona, in that streak. So getting it to click and come together is obviously a different story. But, to write off this team, I think we were all writing off last year's team, and something that they did late January or early February was special. So, yeah, college basketball, right now, Kansas State, you knew when Victorious Miller went to the free throw line late in that game, he was going to hit all 3. That's just kind of the way the ball's been rolling for Kansas State. Go back to last year, during that winning streak at Arizona State, you remember Jaden Quayton, he missed 2 free throws to get K-State a win. So right now, the mojo is just kind of not where it needs to be moving forward. Maybe one win leads to another, and Jerome Tang isn't treating each game like it's its own season. Or excuse me, he is, but maybe his players aren't. Maybe his players are letting things carry over a little too much.
As a person who's late all the time or on time really close, like I'm 10 seconds before the press conference or 5 seconds after. As someone in there that is always looking for more time, let me just assure you of one thing. The problem is I don't have enough time. The problem is I screw around with the time I have until it's too late. And that's basically what this team did last year. They just messed around and it was too late. And then they didn't get going again after the big run. And yeah, this team might make a run, but you might want to start. You got a team called Utah coming in Tuesday night. You might want to take advantage of that because that's a team that is supposed to be worse than you, and they're not right now in the standings. And then you got another team that you like beating coming in Saturday. I'm not even going to name the name because until you beat Utah, I don't want to discuss that. This is a good time to start. It's not too late right now.
No, I mean, they have an opportunity, obviously, in the next, like you mentioned, the next two games to kind of right the ship. Now, obviously, they have to keep going, but I like what Jay said. It's a lot of mental aspect is just getting a win. A lot of that can just be a mental of like, here we go again. And I know we've both been in those situations. We all been in those situations. But you get into a game and a guy makes a shot that you don't think he should make, and you're like, okay, here we go. It's starting right now, and it could be the first shot of the game. And you're like, what is going on? Already it's going downhill. And I think if they can just fight that and maybe get out to a lead, and it doesn't even have to be a big lead, just get out to one and get to the under 8 in the first half with a decent lead and things going well. And then you're like, okay, let's get to the next intermission and just play it like that. I know a lot of people want to say possession by possession, and you should do that, possession by possession. But basketball is different than football, where in football you can go snap to snap and okay, great. And you want to play each possession, but football or basketball is literally broken up for you in half to half, but by 4 segments. Win the segment because it goes back and forth so quickly. If you can just win that, okay, get to the next one. Go win that because the ebb and flow is so much in basketball. It's tough to just say, well, we're going to break it down by possession. You can do that, and I get that, but it just makes it too hard. But if you can win each segment and things going well, because even if you lose the first 90 seconds of that segment, if you come back, it's almost like a boxing match. It's like, hey, if you lose the first minute, you still have 2 minutes to make up the difference and still win the round. And I feel like that's what Kansas State needs to do. I could be wrong, but I feel like if they can just do that, worry about winning those 4 segments, I think it would be much better.
Challenge to do that, Brian. I absolutely agree. Win the first media timeout. If it's baseball, win your first inning. Just win the inning. Whatever it is. But Brian, when you and I were at K-State, we played with guys that we both knew. You knew guys on the basketball team. I knew guys on the football team. We had friends, that we were together for 3-4 years, and we developed trust in one another. And so now you got guys that are coming in year to year, right? And it cannot be overstated unless you've been in that locker room. And I tell people all the time, there are 15 kids on a basketball team. Those 15 kids are the only 15 kids on the planet who are going to know what those kids go through this year. And it's the same thing in football, right? Everyone says they know, they may think they know, but unless you are in the locker room, unless you are out there, unless you are arm in arm with those people, you have no clue really what it's about. The problem is that, the great thing about that is you build a lot of trust and friendships and things that go into that, right? I always said that next to the military, I don't know that there's anything like it that develops that trust and that shared sacrifice. When you turn your roster over every year, you don't have those relationships. It's tough to build that trust that took 3-4 years to build historically in 3 to 4 months. And so I'm sure these guys like each other. I'm sure that they, get along well and everything. And this isn't just unique to K-State. It's all around college basketball. It is tough to build that trust and that 100% faith in one another to where you can talk to your teammates or you get on to your teammates, and understand that I'm chewing your ass today, but it's coming from a place of love, and because we want everything to be better. In today's culture, we're in a spot where everybody's here for their individualism, and I think that that's something that's just tough to get by. And the coaches and the programs that figure that out are the ones that are going to have success.
Jay, you couldn't be more correct. You just look at the top 10. Look at the top 10 in the rankings right this very second. You look at those teams, and those teams, yeah, they're going to have some freshmen, and everybody has a transfer. I don't care who you are. But you look at those top 10 teams in the country, they got guys that have been there a while. Yeah, Arizona, Michigan. Duke is young. They have some young guys, but the guys that aren't young, they're not transferring in. They've been there for a minute. Michigan State, Nebraska. I mean, these teams that are there, they've been there a while. They play together. It's no coincidence, UConn, that these are the best teams in the country because they have a little thing that I know it's gone out the wayside nowadays, but little continuity sometimes goes a long way in some stuff.
You could bring in Barry Brown to this team, but if you don't tag along Dean Wade and Kamau Stokes, why would it even matter? You've got to have your dogs right by your side, and if they're not there, and you want to say, hey, go trust Adi Bashir, go trust Nate Johnson, you can try your best, but if you're just meeting this guy for the first time and you only have a matter of months to work with him, your chemistry is not going to be where it needs to be.
Example, Ryan, just in K-State history, what was the better team, Michael Beasley's freshman year or Jacob Poland's junior year?
Exactly.
And who had better players? Which team had better players? You had Michael Beasley, Bill Walker, Jacob Poland, Clint Stewart. That first year, his last year, you didn't have Michael Beasley, but it was a better team because those guys had been together. They had grown together and they built a team. And it's just, again, this is not unique to K-State. It's cross college basketball, but it's a problem.
I agree. Moving forward, Utah, I would say this is the game that you can really turn it around, but that happened all the way back in Tempe. If you can remember back to Arizona State, that was the winnable game. And then it was, UCF, this one's at home, got to get this one. And then it was Stillwater. You can't keep doing this. It's not going to get any easier. This is a down year for KU for their standards, and then you go to West Virginia, it's never going to get easier. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to win, bottom line.
Yeah, down year for KU. If you hadn't watched them the last two games, you watch KU the last two games, I wouldn't say. I think KU's just getting going. I think that's
Peterson wants to play. Then absolutely.
Yeah, I think they're just getting going. I think KU, if they play the way that they have the last two games, they're going to go to the Final Four. They can. I shouldn't say they're going to, but they absolutely can because they got the best player in the country, and the guy's not selfish. He passes when he needs to, but more than anything, you just can't stop him. But that doesn't matter, I'll be honest, because we've seen KU have those guys before, and Kansas State has beat them. They just got to get it turned around. That's all. We just got to get it going in the right direction. And now, granted, just saying that isn't going to get it done, but maybe it is just having some success and winning a game. Just win a game by any means necessary. And then, okay, you know what, guys? We can win basketball games again. We really can win a game and things can turn around. But I think that's really what it's going to take is just to get one. Just to get one.
Play to win the game, man. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
So there was a guy played at Kansas State. His name was Dylan Edwards. I'm not sure if you guys remember him. Didn't play a whole lot last year. He left. He's down the road at KU.
Lineman, right? Big guy?
Sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Fitz, this is college football in 2026.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to say, though, that I was stunned by the lack of activity around his entry in the portal. We didn't hear of anyone until KU popped up fairly late. And I don't know if he's someone that there's been a lot of kids that go in the portal a lot. I mean, why aren't they held up to a standard? Maybe word got out that he's not great in the locker room. I don't know. I'm not sure, but Kansas is getting a heck of a potential player. But, and I'm not speaking poorly of him. I want him to understand this is what's going on. He is his own worst enemy. He's got to get out of his own way. Stop overthinking things. Stop thinking about the money and the glory and the fame. Just go play football. Just go do it, man. You're squandering your entire college career by getting caught up into whatever you are.
But I think that's part of it, Fitz. What is he?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I mean, I feel like he uses lack of availability, whether it's injury or other, as a way to handle his emotions sometimes. Like, I don't have it, man. I'm not playing. I'm not going to do it today. You know, one of those guys, and nobody likes to be around that. That is not good for a locker room at all.
No, I mean, look, I wish the best, but you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, guys that keep going into the portal, those guys have production. Yeah. Those guys have played in football games that, okay, I played 10, 12 games. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then they play 10, 12 games and they go somewhere else. Now, granted, I hate the fact that guys are just they go to 4 different schools in 4 different years. But again, those guys are having actual production. Well, outside of a big bowl game, and I've given up the fight on bowl games mean anything anymore because they don't. What has he actually done that where you're just going to sit and scream, okay, this guy's got it? Because even at Colorado, after the first game, he didn't do anything at Colorado. Then he comes to Kansas State. He sits behind a pro, has some decent success, but then the next year it's like he doesn't do anything. And so I'm just like, what has he actually done or warrant? So when he went in the portal, and I get what you're saying. You thought there might be some other people. I think these teams are like, why do we want him? An undersized running back that was hurt last year that hasn't really done a whole lot in 3 years of college. Why is that good for our football team? And that's just the truth. People can take that how they want it. I don't care. But facts are facts. Truths are truths. He hasn't done a whole lot. He's been at 3 different schools, or now 3 different schools. He's played for 3 seasons, and we haven't really seen an entire year's of production from him. So why do I want that? And, you know, and it just going to KU, it is what it is. I would say this. It's new to Kansas State and the KU rivalry because covering the Big 12 like I do, there's not a nastier rivalry than Utah and BYU. I can tell you that right now. And they have guys, coaches every single year that are going back and forth between those 2 schools. So it's just new to our rivalry and good players, not guys that don't get to play or anything like that. No. Starters that are nope. I'm moving on. So I get it. And I don't think this is going to be the last of it either. I think this might just be the beginning where we get this wild craziness going back and forth.
Yeah. Coach once told me that potential's a bucket of crap in the corner that hasn't started to stink yet. And, you know, Fitz, you mentioned potential, and I think Brian hit it dead on, right? He's 3 years into this now. At some point, it's not potential. You are what you are.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing I would do to sum it up is I saw a post on X on KU from some KU site talking about how Dylan Edwards was transferring, and a buddy of mine who's a K-State fan just posted the hashtag that just said cancer sucks. And of course, no one had any idea what it meant. They were like, well, yeah, it does, but I don't understand why are you posting this? And I just responded and said, you'll find out soon enough.
Yeah. I wish him well. I hope he's successful. The truth is he was down to 1 school. And it was the other in-state school that saw value because they knew so much about him from high school. So, yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of entertaining because K-State fans have been wrapped up in the people they're getting from the portal. There hasn't been a whole lot of, even Jace Brown, who fans desperately wanted to stay. I didn't see anyone throwing a fit. Just go on, and they're focused on the guys coming into the portal as the new coaching staff comes in. And I'm hearing that Dylan did try to reconcile, and it was told no, we're not doing that. So there you go. And then this new coaching staff went out and found an undersized, speedy guy from the University of Hawaii to fill a similar role. Just having that speed on the team for a certain play call is very valuable.
Yeah, I think all of that fits. I think you're 100% correct. It is, first of all, obviously, with him trying to come back, that was never going to work.
No.
You quit on your football team last year, and he did. I don't care what anybody says. He quit on his team last year. We all know it. We all watched that Baylor game. He was playing just fine, took himself out of the game, and never played again. Well, what are we talking about? Like what the hell is going on, man? Are you hurt or are you not hurt? What are we doing? And it just, for him, I hope at some point he realizes that, man, college is actually okay. It's not, because college is real life, but it isn't. Like, you're not paying bills in college. You don't have a mortgage in college. You don't have certain kind of responsibilities. And for me, college was the best time of my life, being able to hang around guys that I met that I still talk to today. Hey, Jay is in a Facebook group of mine. I haven't seen Jay in probably almost 30 years, but I can tell you about what his kids are doing, what he's doing, what his wife's doing, all because we went to college together and we had a good time. And moving around from different colleges, you lose that. And, you don't get that opportunity. So I hope, number one, I hope he stays there so he can maybe get some of that feel, but it's time to do something with your God-given talent. It's time to do it, unless he's just not capable. And there's something to that too, because some guys, they're not capable. College is tough, man. Everybody can't play college athletics. It's difficult. It really is.
Ryan, I know you want to move on, but I just want one last thing up. Ryan, you hit the nail just squarely on the head. I was talking with a student athlete a while back, and we were talking about NIL and moving and everything. And I said, it made me think of people like Dylan Edwards who've been to multiple schools, four different schools of 4 different years. And if I was going to ask Dylan Edwards, what I would ask him is, 15 years from now, you have a family and your child dies. Who are you going to call? Who's the one guy on your team that you have a relationship? You get divorced, your parent dies. Carrying a ball on a rectangle field or putting a piece of leather through a hoop, that doesn't mean anything. What matters is, and Brian's right, we haven't seen each other for decades, but if Brian called me up, needed something, I'd be there for him to do it. And vice versa. I have a saying, the best things we get from sports have nothing to do with sports. And the NIL money is great, and people should maximize that, and I have no problem with that at all. But at the end of the day, you got a lot of life left to live, and you got to have people around you to help you get through it.
I'll be interested years down the road when we can kind of study the impact of this era, how much graduation rates actually fell. Because there's no way these guys that are transferring 3 times, let alone 4 or 5, are carrying enough credits from school to ever graduate. They're just piling up credits that don't take you anywhere. And I'll be blunt, guys. I'm not even sure some of these kids are going to school, not at K-State, just around college athletics. I think they've gotten so loose on the rules. I bet you some schools, kids aren't showing up for class. It's just nothing about academics. Guys that transfer are going to get down the road and they're not going to have a sports career or an academic career. And,
It's all online.
yeah.
When Davion Bradford left Kansas State and went to Wake, he showed up at Wake and he'd never been in an in-person class. It was all on. Now they were coming out of COVID and everything, but you're seeing it around. I bet if we looked at people, colleges around the country, universities around the country, how many of these kids are in online classes? And it again goes back to, what do you want out of your college experience too? And, there's something about seeing university students walking through campus and talking to people and doing that. And, even if you may graduate with a degree, but what'd you really learn?
Exactly.
I had a great college career until I think my junior year. I met Fitz. It was downhill ever since that moment. But yeah, like I still live in Manhattan. I still go to the rec. I pay for the membership. I get out of my apartment as much as I can just to be around people, guys. If I was living in my apartment doing everything virtually online, I'd go nuts. I gotta get out of the house. Big B, I think Kansas State checked a lot of boxes. A+, A-. You can give a grade for the way that Colin Klein, Trey Scott, they attacked the portal, but that wave, Fitz, it sounds like it's done for now, but this is your time to set up, your spring months, and, roster construction is one thing, but you also got to coach football games and get your guys in the best shape physically, and also, establish that playbook and get things rolling.
Yeah, I first of all, y'all know how big of a fan I am of the Colin Klein hire. I was overjoyed bringing him in and what he's done, and it's just kind of brought a different light to the Kansas State football program that I think it needed. It just needed a little bit of an upstart, get a little bit of fresh blood in there in all phases, to be able to kickstart this program going. Not that it was going in a bad direction. I think that's kind of the misconception that people believe that Coach Kleiman had the program going in the wrong direction. Just because of a 6-6 year, okay, it was disappointing, but I don't think the program was going in a wrong direction. It just had a bad year, some bad losses. Okay, fine. I said, but Coach Klein, Colin Klein, I should say, can get it going in an upward trajectory. And that's okay. That's a good thing. But you're right. Sooner or later, it comes down to coaching football and getting football players in. But you got to get them in. They got them in, put them in the right position, and more than anything, put guys in a position to where they can exceed, to maximize their ability. If that's the one thing I don't think the previous staff did enough of, is putting guys in a position to maximize what they do well and then continue to do it. Maybe we would do it for a little bit and then we would back off and, you know what, let's do it my way because I think I have the best way to do it versus, you know what, yeah, my way is probably better, but those guys can't do it that way. They can do it this way and do it really well. Let's just continue to do that. And I think this staff is going to do that, just continue to do what those guys do well and just continue to do it over and over and over, maybe with a ton of different looks, but still doing the same thing. And that's innovative because people think that a playbook, first of all, I was Coach Snyder. That playbook was, I mean, you could put New York City yellow pages in there and you could stack it on there 50 times. It wasn't as big as his playbook. But I will say this, when it came to actually putting plays together, we had a ton of formations. We ran the same stuff. He just made it look so different from play to play, but it was the same stuff, man. And that's what made it so fun because everybody, they'd be yelling that we're doing this, doing that. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to pull around and hit your linebacker in the mouth again. That's all we're going to do. Nothing different. It was incredible. I loved it.
Yeah, I was up there the other day, talked to Trey Scott, and Colin called me in as I was walking by. And so we sat and talked for a little bit. But one of the things we talked about kind of touched on this, that people don't understand that the biggest magic trick, if there was one, that Bill Snyder did, was he had a way of scheming you. And people ask me all the time, how did K-State win so many games with what would be perceived as inferior talent? Now, first of all, I'd say it wasn't. It was based on the recruiting services but it wasn't necessarily inferior. But even the times that he played against teams that did have clearly better talent or bigger dudes, he had an ability to scheme to take his best player, whether it was Darren Sproles or Tyler Lockett, and put it against the weakest player possible. So now it's not 11 on 11 advantage you, it's 1-on-1 advantage him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did with his playbook over and over, was to pick the matchup. And nobody maximized their big players more than Bill Snyder, because he didn't just use them, he put them in the best possible positions. And I think we saw them do that with Deuce Vaughn a little bit here under Chris Kleiman, but I don't think that stuck around. I honestly, it's almost as if it left with Colin Klein. He would do that with Deuce, and having that sense of how to construct an offense around what might be seen as limited tools compared to other teams was the real brilliance of Bill Snyder.
Yeah. It's much better than I, but from just someone looking into the program from the outside, the other thing that Bill Snyder did was giving every last ounce of effort you have was non-negotiable. That was table stakes just to get on the floor, right, or get on the field. I mean, that was the baseline. If you want to play, then that's the minimum that you have to do. And I think justifiably so. The last couple of years, K-State fans have been maybe a little frustrated by what they may appear to have a drop off in that area. And I think that hopefully Coach Klein will bring back that to where K-State fans don't feel like that's an issue anymore.
Yeah. Big B, you mentioned it, man. Like, coaches have a lot of jobs. At the end of the day, if you keep it simple, putting your players in the best position to go out and perform well and win is paramount.
Got to do it. That's coaching 101. You can be the smartest coach with the best scheme, but if the players that you have can't do it, it doesn't matter. You got to be able to recognize that and say, you know what? Let's just do what they do well first. Then if you can teach them down the road to expand on that, then you're really cooking, but the first thing you got to do is say, identify what they do well based on what we want to do, and do that and do it a lot. And then we can expand on what they can do, down the road. Because that's, in my opinion, that's coaching, is that you just can't make somebody do something that they're not capable of doing. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work. More importantly, it does not work.
Rob wants us to talk about this wideout room, and if there was one Achilles heel that Chris Kleiman had, it was the wideouts. Never were able to perform at a high level consistently. Fitz, we've said this for years now, but here we are once again. This looks like it could be the real deal with the wideouts.
I'm not going to go there.
You're not going there, okay?
Look, it could be, but let's not get Joshua Manning. He was effective when he was used, but for some reason, Missouri coaches didn't use him. I mean, we've seen players like that depart K-State, go other places, and then not be productive. So let's try to limit the pressure on him. But I think they feel like they're putting together a better group. I have a feeling this would be the one lingering area that if something popped up down the road, they'd really go ahead and activate for. They really did want another effective receiver, but they just didn't find it. And you know what? They're on a budget now. Everyone's on a budget. It's crazy. You just can't afford a player maybe like a pro team. You're at the cap. You can't afford that. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm optimistic, as my previous answer says, that they're going to put players in better situations. If you look back, Malik Knowles was used where he was best, going down the sideline or on reverses. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was his bread and butter, and he was really good at it. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot. I'm probably by the end of next season, I'm going to be done wondering if they're going to run the Jace Brown Wildcat again, because it works. I don't think they will. I think they probably aren't going to do that. that's what the price of a 6-6 season is. You got plays at work. You just don't have time to get them on the field.
To what extent does Avery Johnson figure into the wide receiver room as well too? I mean, because again, not my sport, but it seemed like it was a light switch, right? Either he was really, really on or really, really off, and the 3-yard out to the tight end and the flat wasn't working a whole lot at many times. But we also missed a lot of balls downfield, and I'm hoping that he can improve this year and make a talented wide receiver room even better.
Yeah,
Well, one of
regardless
the things. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to cue it to you, Big B. Regardless of how good or bad the Jimmys and Joes are, a different staff, a different mindset, different offense can lead to better results from a different wideout group, even if they're not the best players.
Absolutely. That's literally where I was going to go, is just, depending on what you're asking them to do, whether you have the Jimmys or Joes or not. But if you have different ones and better ones, that's going to help. But I think some of it was, let's just be honest, it was coaching and Avery getting coached to do something that wasn't, I don't know. In my opinion, it just wasn't advantageous to trying to get the best out of his ability, and just coach Avery to do what he can do, instead of sitting back there and what you said, Jay, hey, it's 3rd and 6 and we're throwing a 4-yard out, on the sideline, and I'm like, well, what are we doing? I'm like, and then punting the football. I'm like, and my whole thing was like, if you don't trust your quarterback to drop back and throw the ball 7 yards down the field so we can get a first down, or better yet, if you don't have a play in the playbook to be able to do that, that's a problem. I don't think we're going to have that problem any longer. So, again, there's going to be times where the coaching staff's going to do something and we're all scratching our heads, but that kind of stuff happened way too often. And to be honest, I think he was being coached that way because, hey, take the early thing, take something easy. That's okay. Well, that's fine on 1st and 2nd down, but 3rd down, it's not. 3rd down, hey, let's get a first down so we can keep going. And it just didn't seem like enough situational football was being taught, and it cost us. It just cost us.
It seemed like there was more trust on any down up by double digits to make a throw deep or any throw than there was on 3rd and 7 to throw it past the sticks.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. It just.
Let me ask a follow-up to that, if I can, Big B. Do you think, one of the things also that I heard a lot of criticism on of, like, Avery last year several times he'd go into a slide and be a yard short of the first down, or he'd run out of bounds 2 yards short of a first down, or turn his back and not push through for that extra yard to get a first down. Now you're having Colin Klein as the head coach, who was literally a human battering ram. I mean, do we see that we're going to? Do you think that we're going to see a change of attitude in that? I mean, because I can't imagine the Colin Klein coached football team, him having a quarterback that's not willing. I'm not saying that we're going to run Avery like we did Colin, but I think would hope there's going to be some expectation of, if it's 3rd and 1, you better get that one.
Well, the coach said in his introductory press conference, we are going to live in physicality. You can't live in physicality, sliding early, 3rd and 1, turning your back. And I understand the whole aspect of not wanting to get hurt. I also think that was coached in Avery a little bit to, hey, protect yourself.
Yep.
Don't take an extra chance or anything like that. And he still needs to do that, but there's times where, it's still football. You can just be running out of bounds and get hurt, and nobody even hit you. It's football. You're going to have – there's a risk to playing football. So do you not want to take the risk? Then don't play. That would be my only thing. So, and I don't think that was all Avery either. I think a lot of that, maybe the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff is telling them, don't take a chance. And maybe we don't have anybody behind you that can do it. And I'm not sure they do now. I think they do. But it is what it is. Jay, you're right. It's going to be totally different because you can't live in physicality when you're not willing to take punishment when you know punishment is going to come. That's just part of football.
Ironically, playing anywhere in football that's not 100%, I think your risk of injury is going to go up. So
Exactly.
Yep.
we've had this conversation with basketball, with effort, physicality. It's going to apply to football here, and Colin Klein wants to live in there. Jay, if we ever need any legal law advice, you know who we're hitting up, man. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, guys. Looking forward to it. And hey, basketball's tough right now for sure, but there is a lot of season left. So we can stay positive. Hopefully we'll get a win on Tuesday night and start building on something, as B said.
Yeah, glass half full. Look at last year. That team won 6 games in a row. You never know what can happen in the Big 12. Reminder, tonight's our final night of our 50% off sale. Beginning on Tuesday, though, is going to be 2 months for $1. So Cole Carmody's got you locked in with football. But for now, it's still basketball season. We'll see if K-State can get in the win column against Utah Tuesday night.
Thank you for watching the K-State Insiders. This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production.